Welcome into the League Company Countdown to Kickoff as the Tennessee Titans are back at home for their season finale, hosting the Houston Texans alongside Brad Hopkins, Buck Rising, Blaine Bishop. I'm Kayla Anderson, and yes, we are in studio due to the weather today. When it rains, we go inside. It's crazy to think that this is the only time this entire regular season we've actually been in the studio. The weather has been beautiful for us every single Sunday, but again, you know, when it rains, it pours, and I guess it's fitting at the end of the season. How are you guys doing? And I don't know what to say about this game. You looking forward to it? I mean, I don't know.
The conclusion of a season that has been kind of disappointing, yeah. As a matter of fact, you know, when I walked in and Buck was standing there, the first thing he did was look at me and shake his head and it's like, you know what? We're going to get to this.
Get it done, baby.
Get these next couple hours and see what happens after that. You know? But then again, you know what? I guess what can be the silver lining is that once it's over, we can start looking towards next year because that's the cool thing about football. Whether you win or you lose, there's going to be another season. And the season that you just had doesn't guarantee what's going to happen next year, kind of like the stock market, right? So I think that once this thing's all put to bed and we start looking at what this team does to improve itself, making some changes, having a year under its belt. How about that? First-year head coach, implementation of first-year system, trying to get things and guys on the same page. At least they'll have some sort of experience playing together. At least the nucleus will. There'll be some guys coming and going, but you know, hope always reigns eternal, and we'll see what happens in 2025.
Well, I'm always interested in looking at the game before we even move forward. For me, is how do certain players play in this game? Because it'll tell you a lot about who they are and their character and how hard they play. Whether you have to be incentivized by some incentives maybe you have. Maybe you're a backup who gets to start and you get to prove your worth in this league, and maybe not only this team, but for another team. So who goes out here and plays with that edge to really, try to show that they belong in this league. So I'm always interested in that, and who's checked out and already, shipped their cars and everything else, and getting ready for vacation and determine where they're ready to go. Got to keep the eyes on the prize because this game could be here and gone the next day. So many players that are deserving for an opportunity. So I'm always looking at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Coming from a player's perspective, I always love to hear that. League Company, we are brought to you by League Company. You can visit them online at leaguecompany.com. Of course, again, I'm mentioning we're in the studio. We've got some people on the F&M Bake Chat, which we always love to hear from you there. Questioning inside. Yes, we are inside because of the weather today, but we will all be back out there.
Yeah, that's the only way we got inside here, man.
This on Buck.
How many emails I sent when I saw the forecast?
I need to be
Better
inside.
not put our asses out on that stage.
Oh, no.
And the worst part is I sit on the end, so I'm guaranteed to get wet.
Yeah, you're guaranteed to get all the rain,
You're
right?
welcome, B-Hop. I did this for you.
Did you? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Good job.
No, I mean, we'll see what happens today. And to Blaine's point, you talked to the guys about it all week in the locker room. Kayla, I know you've been in there too. And it's unavoidable, the idea that the vast majority of the fan base wants them to lose, because draft position is something that's going to be talked about a great deal today. Obviously, Titans fans keeping close eye on the Patriots game, because a Titans loss to the Texans and a Patriots win against the Bills would guarantee the number one overall pick. And B-Hop, like you said, that's the greatest source of hope right now, not just because of what player you might get in a draft class that plenty of people, I think, have talked about the strength or lack thereof of the quarterback position, but the leverage that it provides you to improve this roster across the board where there are so many needs.
Yeah, man, who would have guessed that the Titans have a chance to pick at number one before the season? I am still stunned. I mean,
they're stunned.
I cannot believe that this is a possibility, and interesting enough, in a year that you probably need a quarterback and really not sure if there's a big-time quarterback even coming out.
Yeah. I guess the worst part is that the Indianapolis Colts have struggled. The Houston Texans have struggled. The Jacksonville Jaguars obviously have struggled. Everybody in this division has struggled, but yet we're sitting here with the possibility of picking within the top two.
The worst of the strugglers.
I mean, man. But, if you want to look at it in a different way, I mean, obviously, the first pick of the draft, it comes with a lot of cachet. I mean, this person obviously is, by most accounts, the best person available in the draft.
Sure.
And how will he make that team better, whatever team he goes to? If it's us that takes him, what are we going to draft with that first pick? What's our most glaring need that we can address with these young dudes coming in? But for the most part, we have a chance today to sweep the Texans. Because the last time that Will Levis was on the football field was in week 15, obviously, but week 12 was the last time they had a W. And he was the one that actually helped us win and played pretty well. I mean, they put up 32 points, which seems like an anomaly nowadays. But either way, the team played a little bit better on the road. They played a little bit better against this team that's here and a little bit better against a team that, is thinking about playoffs. But like D'Amico Ryan said, hey, most of the guys are going to be playing, but for how long? Right. That'll be determined by how the game goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, they're wearing the Love You Blues today. We know what happened to them last year when they lost in the Love You Blues. It was not a good thing, right? And Amy Adams-Strunk obviously took that personal too, because this is the history of the franchise, which we'll talk about later in the show. So it means a lot to her. But, these players understand that too, especially the ones like Jeffrey Simmons who have been here for a minute. And sweeping the Texans would be great. It's just having, to dip back down in the draft lineup when you could possibly have a top 3 pick if you lose this game. That's just huge. As the injury report goes, guys, there are a lot of players that will not be playing. Tyler Boyd, Nick Folk, Amani Hooker, Arden Key, Tajay Spears. Otis Reese has been put on IR to end the season. Jalen Duncan also not playing in this game. And Tony Pollard, who has some incentives, and Chig Okonkwo, they're questionable for this. I'd maybe say I'd expect to see Tony Pollard just because of the incentives part.
Go get your money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is at this point in time. I know people saw probably, there's been any number of clips over the years of players that are mic'd up going to another player, be it a quarterback and a wide receiver, Gronk and Tom Brady. Gronk, I think, had $1 million on the line the last season that the two of them played together with the Bucs, and Gronk actively going up to Brady on the sideline advocating, hey, just need one more, Tommy. Just one more to get the mill, and it's that kind of thing now. It's not quite that much money for Tony Pollard, but he can add $450,000 to his annual salary by rushing for 83 or more yards and 2 touchdowns today. So in total, he has $450,000 on the line. And
that's not that much money.
Well, I'm about to say the same thing. I'm like, give me that. Are you kidding?
Wait.
I'll take it, Tony.
Making millions.
So measly
Every dollar counts, man. I'm telling you right now, man. And it's not, man. It counts. If not, he wouldn't be playing for it. He'd be like, let me shut it down.
I took a little too 1% tone there, did I, Brian?
Yeah. I mean, man, come on, bro.
I don't know about that.
Listen, to play in that game today, you have to take $450,000.
But I understand what you're saying. There's also a lot of mile markers. How about that? 941 yards on the season for Calvin Ridley. We just mentioned Tony Pollard, how close he is. Kenneth Murray needs 5 tackles for 100 tackles this year.
He won't be playing because he's done.
Right, I know, but just the fact that these guys are that close to achieving something that you can at least, when you look at the end of the season, you're like, man, we won 3 or 4 games. That sucks. Well, at least I rushed for 1,000. At least I caught for 1,000. At least I had, double-digit tackles for as many 3 straight years. Or
Matters for Calvin Ridley today if he gets to 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons with 3 different franchises.
Exactly. So those are things that you can really say, it wasn't that bad. I mean, winning is the most paramount thing because obviously that winning and losing is what gets people fired and hired. You want to have at least those monuments that you can say, hey, look, at least I tried my best.
Wasn't it a year, though, when there's somebody, I want to say it was a receiver, but Caleb, maybe that somebody didn't play because they didn't want to get for the Titans, I'm sorry, to get their incentive? Was it somebody like that? Or was that during
a couple of seasons ago. It was
Hop last year.
Yeah,
Hop last year.
Yeah, it was Hop. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So played in all 17 games last year.
Yeah, that does happen at times.
Yeah, how crazy is that Saquon Barkley could have possibly, if he rushed for 101 yards, broke Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record.
Which used to say he wouldn't because he's pretty much done it in every game.
He's not going to go out there.
Yeah, he's not
going to go out there. So I guess they said, hey, look, we have bigger fish to fry. It's cool that you're this close, and what a monumental season for you and Derrick Henry. But you know what? We're going to say goodbye.
What would you do?
Man. See, if it were like 50 yards, then I would go out there.
Okay.
But 100 yards... Even though 100 yards, I think, would be pretty easy for a guy like Saquon Barkley, that's a harder nut to get. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I probably would sit him too. Especially when you think,
obviously he has some say in whether or not, but it doesn't necessarily sound like that was 100% his decision. I
thought it was Nick's.
They had talked about, from an ownership standpoint on down to coaching to front office to player. hey, we're going to talk about this together and see what's in the best interest. I don't know if you guys saw the media availability that he did in front of his locker room this week, but he didn't seem happy. He understood.
This was an organizational decision. No, the player doesn't have any, say so. It's like an injury. So you say, okay, first of all, you got to look at his injury history. So I think they take that into account. Also, he will be playing his former team. So I would have cut it in the middle just to be a chicken and say, hey, we're going to play half the game and try to put it on my offensive lineman, B-Hop and the crew, to say, hey, y'all better give it to him in the first round. The first half. And if he doesn't get it, if he's close, maybe I'll let y'all go back out in the second half. After that, I got to cut loose because the wear and tear of a running back and someone who has the injury history that he's had, and we see how phenomenal he is behind a great offensive line. Oh, man, that's a risky one there. But, boy, I would have tried to slice that up because the media is trying to say that if he doesn't go to the Super Bowl, which is not attached to this record, by the way, which makes nonsense to me.
Yeah, but
then you don't get the 2,000, you get fired. Really? What? Oh my God!
How about the fact? I mean, I think this is
Buck wants Titans fans to be Philly fans.
Do you hear this?
I think this is the last thing. The last thing that they were in conversation that they were having with this is, and Blaine, this can happen any Sunday. What if he got hurt?
I know that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and you sat there and you said, y'all put Saquon Barkley out there to chase this record. You
can't win.
And it possibly could affect what you guys do in the postseason. You big dummies, in the words of Fred Sanford.
Watch this. But what do you think? I know Kayla's going to say I wouldn't play him.
What's that smirk? That sneer looking.
You see, because the media wants to see the record. They want to cover it. They want to see all of that.
Well, you can't ask somebody.
Players is not the same perspective.
You can't ask somebody who's never played at that level.
You don't have to play.
The ultimate, this is the ultimate team sport, right? And it's about the team. It's not necessarily about the individual. If you're going to ask me, I'm going to take the individual approach. I'm going to be like, give me the record. I want that. That's my name forever. For all time, whether we win the Super Bowl or not, that lives on. And but that's a very, very individualized approach, which is why you can't ask somebody like me that question.
What about you, Kayla?
I mean, I always, to cover something, you always want the juiciest. You want the records broke, all of that good stuff. But at the same time, I get, as a team as a whole, if you're going for the end goal, which Philly thinks that it can do that it can accomplish that this year, especially with that most important piece they've added in Saquon Barkley, then I guess you have to think of the whole bigger picture. I look at it like this. Like, when I chase certain boys as a young person, was it really worth chasing in the end? Did I really get it? Why should I have to be chasing all these guys? Like, I just sometimes could sit back and wait for the big picture to finally unfold. That's what, Saquon Barkley is doing. Waiting for the big picture.
Ooh, I
hoist
see
the Lombardi when it's all said and done.
Yeah. So you want the Dan Campbell approach? Didn't they go for it? I mean, they played all their players. But it's his personality, right?
Yeah. That's who he's going to be the whole way through,
Absolutely.
Win, lose, or draw.
It is the Lee Company countdown to kickoff here as we are counting down the Titans and the Texans for the season finale. When we return, we always have talked about the quarterback spot. It's just been a carousel this year for the most part. So they're going to play both quarterbacks. We'll talk about why Will Levis might be getting the start and what it means for his career as a Tennessee Titan. That's next. Welcome into the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home too, your next play. Visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. We got the whole crew in studio today because of the weather, and then a lot of us will be making our way back out to the stadium to cover the game alongside Blaine Bishop, Brad Hopkins, and Buck Rising. I'm Kayla Anderson, and I believe we'll have Ron Slay on the phone in just a minute. He's ready to go? Okay, we have Slay Dog. He is at the Bridge Building, and what do you got for a Slay season finale? It's got to be big. There's got to be a big crowd there today.
What's happening, people?
What's up?
What's going on? How's it going? I can hear a little music in the background there.
Yeah, man, listen, it's all about setting up, the time and the intimacy and the things of that nature. You know, when you're walking in, you don't want it to be all loud and crazy, and you can't hear nobody. So what we said is, y'all trickle in slowly today.
That's what you said?
Oh, this is by design?
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. See, we even added some things. We got a coat check person up there. So I think a lot of people up there still checking their coats, and then they'll be in here shortly. So, but other than that, the food is phenomenal. Ortega Tacos, man, it's going down.
As always.
It is the season finale. You guys have been over there all season long. DJ, C-Wiz, and company. What can people expect if they're bringing out the family today to celebrate before the game?
Man, listen, you got beautiful seating down here. We got the floors. We got the Xbox station right here. I'm gonna get on that in a minute, and play against myself to see if I can beat myself. Somebody got to win today. So, outside of that, you got all you can eat, all you can drink. And it's good networking.
There you go.
You feel me, KK? It's some good networking.
You're reaching. You're doing a good job.
I don't think I've ever heard somebody try and upsell a thing as much as you. What do you mean, you guy? I thought you were going to come in here talking about Vols men's and women's hoops. They're still undefeated at this
listen,
point.
Buck, I'm fresh off the plane coming back from SEC, and man,
you're doing great, sweetie.
Tell you what, hey man, it is amazing what's going on in that conference. So I don't think I got to speak about it, man. When you watch the games yesterday, it started off with 106 to 100 game with Kentucky and Florida. I mean, that was great tone setting. So we'll let y'all know once the real game start. Once we get about 2 or 3 teams in the final.
Hey, Slay, there's a few of us that got the memo to wear the Oilers gear. Zeph has even got his Houston Oilers shirt on. Kayla and Buck not so much. Of course, me and Blaine are rocking it.
Yeah. Y'all ain't got to rock it. It's in y'all.
Right. Well, the thing I have on was not purchased. It was issued. I'll just leave it at that. Ooh. But the thing is, I'd like to see from you the next hour that we talk to you, how many people show up with the Oilers gear on, especially since the Titans are going to be rocking the Love You Blue jerseys today.
Yeah, man. And listen, I did myself a disservice because I was going to bring my Love You Blue jersey. I did purchase one. I wore it last year, but I didn't get to make it back home in time because I had to change my flight to get here earlier because I would have been stuck in Charlotte. So I do have it. It's not on me, but I do have it. So, don't count that against me.
All right, Slay Dog. Well, we appreciate you. We'll check back in with you in hour 2. It is the Bridge Building Titans VIP tailgate. Go over there, give Slay Dog a visit. If anything, you get to hang out with Slay. So that's the selling point.
Whoa, it's
right?
It's
right?
like a slew. It's like 75 people walking. Hey, I got to go,
Let's
y'all. It's
go.
so many people walking.
Right.
I got to get out of here, man.
Let's go.
We would hate to keep you.
SEC.
At least he gets to drink and party.
Shut up, Buck.
I'm drinking orange tea.
He said we'd hate to keep you. Yeah, Buck.
Hate to keep you. Hate to keep you from it, bud.
Goodness.
Your Madden game against yourself.
Oh, my. Slide dog, you.
What we all want to talk about, though, is the quarterback. Okay. Can we just for
Which
once?
one?
Yeah, exactly. The carousel of quarterback, the I guess flipping of both quarterbacks this season has been a thing. They will both play today, guys. But Brian Callahan said that Will Levis will get the start today. So my question to you guys, is this the last time we are seeing Will Levis in the two-tone blue? And what is, in your eyes, the reasoning behind even playing him today?
Well, I know that they can't publicly say that they wouldn't put winning at the forefront, but a dual quarterback situation does not necessarily indicate to me that they have, the most intention to go out there and dominate the Houston Texans. Now, maybe there's something about what Levis brings to the table that favors them in this Houston Texans matchup. I know he didn't play a completely clean game in Houston a couple of months ago, but he was very effective, saved the pick six. At the sacks that he took, him trying to run up through the front of the pocket and taking a lot of these 1 yard loss, 2 yard loss sacks and things like that. It certainly wasn't a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe there is some logic to it, and Brian Callahan talked about that with us this week, guys. The idea that, it's not necessarily based on how many possessions we get. If one has the hot hand, I'm not speaking for Callahan. He's not indicating that he's just going to pull him because that's what their plan was. For Will, I mean, it's not really a last opportunity to get evaluated because they could move him, they could trade him. I mean, the most unthinkable thing would be to cut him as a former second-round pick. That would be pretty surprising. But, there's nothing to say that he can't be here and the voluntary work when spring comes around and even towards training camp. We know Malik Willis was traded at the end of training camp as opposed to being released by the team. So I don't necessarily think it's the last time that we see him in the game uniform. I don't know if he makes it to preseason with this team or not. But, I think they've told him in not so many words what they think of him, Brad and Blaine, is that they don't believe he gives them the best chance to win football games, which is why they set him down, not just in that Bengals game, but in the weeks afterwards.
Real quick, before I go to you guys, I do want to share this was Will Levis earlier this week when asked kind of about coming in and being able to play in this game.
I wouldn't want my last throw to be a pick six, so at least I had a shot at that not being the case. So, like I said, I'm not trying to focus on doing anything specific. All I'm trying to do is play quarterback the best that I can, and like you said, it's a good opportunity to try to end the season on a good note.
So he said, at least I don't have that last time I remember playing this season as a pick six.
Oh, he said this season? I didn't know that he said this season or versus period.
No, he just was saying like he gets another chance.
Right. I'm saying he's saying he didn't want his last throw to be an interception.
Exactly.
I didn't hear in there if he was being specific to this year or even in the future. In other words, if there's not a future for him here next year, will that have been his last toss? But real quick, before we give it back to you guys, I think that when you look at the situation at quarterback and how Will Levis has played this year, him playing in this game, it matters because the last time he played was week 15. If you're going to make a decision about Will Levis moving forward, let's have a more recent sample size of what you're able to do. In other words, if he goes out here and throws a couple touchdowns, that's obviously some positive marks you can put on his record versus him committing more turnovers and beating Baker Mayfield for having the most in the season this year. So I think that just going out and seeing what kind of a sample size we can see from him as they head into the offseason is more important than, say, him coming into the game to win or lose.
Blaine, what did you think about just, his kind of opportunity to go out there again this season when really the storyline this whole year from Callahan has been, we're going to put Will Levis out there and give him every opportunity that he has as long as he's healthy. Well, towards the end of the year, we saw that definitely wasn't the case because he was yanked.
Well, I thought he kept changing here. He said, even now, going into this game, he said Mason Rudolph, when he made the change, gives us the best shot of winning. Those are his quotes by the head coach there. And now all of a sudden this week, he makes Levis the starter, and he acts as though him acting as an adult while he was benched, that this is the reason why he's putting him back out there. I kind of look at it like they're looking at this like a preseason game because I'm going to use Malik Willis as the example. Remember, everybody, Malik Willis is doing so great. No, he was doing really good, and they wanted to say, okay, we're going to start him the last preseason game, as I said then, so we can continue to increase his value to trade him. And I think that is what's going on right here. And you can't say that. But in its essence, I don't think this is taken because Will Levis is a hit or miss, cold, hot guy. He can get hot and can take over a game, by the way, with some great throws, but he also can doom himself. So which one are you going to get? And that's rolling the dice, and that's being a gambler there as a head coach. And as we saw, he did help the team win against the Texans before.
That's a good point.
It'd be interesting. I think a lot of people roll the dice, say he's going to hit the back end of that and be bad, but you just never know when a guy goes out there and he has nothing to lose. Those are always dangerous athletes to play against. All the pressure is on everybody. I don't care. What worse could happen? I've already been benched. So maybe we get a different Will Levis that is even better than we've seen. I don't know. It could be bad, though. But, man, that's rolling dice to just think that he's going to have a bad game. Ooh, I don't know about that one. And then to say that you're going to keep him in if he gets hot? Whoa, now you've kind of backed yourself in a corner there, Callahan. Hey, man, our job is to actually not win this game.
Right.
Oh, if I was him, I'd go. I mean, obviously, you go out there to try and play your best football no matter what if you're a player, because whether it's this team or another team that will give you an opportunity, you want to have good stuff on tape so that you can continue to get those job opportunities. But if I was out there, I'd be so much more motivated to just tell them to shove it and go out there and play the best possible football, because they've already told him that they don't believe in him, and then they've danced around this whole thing to your point. I think it's, I get it. You can't say it publicly. It benefits them none to say it publicly. Obviously, you would start to question the coach even more than the coach is being questioned in the front office, even more than the front office is being questioned if they outright said, yeah, you know what, losing wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for us kids. Sure. Let's put Will back out there and see if he can.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Buck. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, hey, look, we want to get this first pick, right? If the New England Patriots somehow beat the Bills, we'll be positioned for the number one pick. Let's go out there and put Will in there so that way we can not look like we're trying to lose the game, but he gives us the best chance to do that.
If I was Will Levis, I'd do my best Bud Adams impression, double middle fingers, you guys,
Oh, absolutely. Self-motivation is a thing.
I mean, he's got a lot of motivation all over the place, man, to increase his value, to show that he does belong and is a starter in the National Football League. So this guy's is motivated all over.
And he stood on that when we asked him about that specific part of it, about being a starter in the future, whether that's here or elsewhere. I guess that would have been week 15 when he got benched. And he, it's about as much like spark as I've seen him show at any point, because he kind of whipped around on Steve Lehman a little bit and looked him in the eye and said, no, I believe that I'm going to be a starter, whether it's here or somewhere else.
He is a competitor.
Absolutely.
Don't forget it. That's how you get to this level.
And look, we've seen plenty of quarterbacks who have gotten drafted even way before him in the league that have what we thought bottomed out at some point in their career. And a lot of them this year specifically have kind of had a rise in terms of a rebirth of their career. Because a lot of these guys are going to really bad franchises that have been losing, that don't have offensive lines, here on and there on. And now we see Sam Darnold, who has had a spark of his career. I mean, I'll be the first to say I did not believe in Sam Darnold when he was drafted, and it showed for a while. And now
I kept saying Sam Darnold.
And see, there you go.
Laughing at me.
And now he's in the right spot, and he's around the right coaches.
Yes.
And he has the experience.
He was just part of the curse of the Jets. I mean, look at
that too. That's
Aaron
part
Rodgers
of it.
Goes to their son. Zach Wilson can't compete.
Yeah, so there is other life, other than the first place you get drafted.
Hell, Geno Smith did the same thing. He went up to Seattle and just started balling out for a little bit there. So you're right. Maybe it is a change of scenery that somehow, or maybe even more of an appreciation for who these guys actually are.
Well, it took Geno a decade. He's 35. You know what I'm saying? He was a Charger. He was a Giant after the Jets. I may have left out a stop before he got to Seattle in the middle of all that. And there's some discussion about him potentially getting cut for salary cap reasons, even though that they've had offensive struggles, but there's been a lot of conversation around their first-time offensive coordinator or NFL offensive coordinator and Ryan Grubb, and the offensive line situation in Seattle's been poor too.
Yeah.
I already mentioned him once, but Baker Mayfield, he had his struggles. He was the first pick of the draft one year.
Also, scheme, system, sometimes fit, coaching staff. Does matter. You've seen it over and over at other positions besides quarterback, but naturally quarterback's the most important. But, man, sometimes lights guys up, and then they feel like they have the confidence out this world that you can go do anything at any position, really.
Do you guys feel that they made the correct, understanding that they plan to build around Will, right? Mm-hmm. There was some, at least in this one season. Now, that doesn't necessarily that they have to continue to do it in the future. They can build in contingency plans should they have had to move on from Will Levis in whatever form or fashion, whether that's moving him at the end of the season or in the offseason, whether that's sitting him down and trying to put Mason Rudolph in there to give themselves a chance. But it just felt almost to me, and there's nothing, nobody said this, but it just felt like to me they were kind of biding their time with Will Levis as a coaching staff because he didn't fit what it is that they want to do. I'd defer to Brad and Blaine on that.
We had this conversation before, and I think it was last week, Kayla, when we were talking about coaches that have a system that needs to be ran by a player in a certain way versus a coach that can make adjustments, that's flexible enough to see what the strengths are of the guy that he has at center and then build a game plan according to that.
Sure.
You know, I'm not sure exactly after this first season which of the two does exist here. Is Brian Callahan's system one that needs to be run by a veteran like a Joe Burrow to have success, or is he a good enough teacher like a Jim Harbaugh to kind of look at what his quarterback does best and surround him with pieces that allow him to shine in that respect?
Can I add something real quick to that, just context? At the beginning of the year when they did not have a third quarterback, he did mention, if it were up to me, I would bring a quarterback in here that's very young and moldable. So I'm just adding context to that would be a third quarterback, but if that's his mentality on developing, maybe that is something that can go into what you're asking.
You don't want to develop Malik Willis? I mean, he was a young quarterback.
Well, Will Levis
it was once Malik was. It was once Malik was gone.
He had two young dudes that he could actually have had that scenario. But I just think in most situations like that, when you're drafting a young quarterback, you do have a veteran that's sitting behind him, like a Joe Flacco type, just in case this thing doesn't develop as fast as you would like it to be able to come in there and be serviceable until, like Sam Darnold this year, sitting in for J.J. McCarthy. People are saying Sam Darnold will be available next year. Why? Because the Vikings already drafted their quarterback for the future.
Well, he might not be now, man.
But you see what I'm saying? I mean, I think it would be unfair because J.J. got hurt and Sam is having this extraordinary season for them all of a sudden just rinse J.J. McCarthy out because up to that point, he was playing well enough.
No, but I think it depends on the organization, right, Brad? And again, I'm only speaking on from this perspective of having covered one organization and seen how other teams have done it. But like the Falcons paid Kirk Cousins, and then they built themselves in a contingency plan for Michael Penix. So if Kirk could be the starter, but if not, they have the ability to kind of throw a change of pace thing here, not throw Penix to the Wolves right away, allow him to sit for whatever time period and develop. Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings coach, has talked about this publicly. He's talked about how often organizations ruin players as opposed to players failing organizations outright because there is such a lack of patience. And I think, Minnesota is the perfect example of what they plan to do, which is likely tag Sam Darnold. You don't have to commit to him long term. You can put him on the tag for 1 year, keep McCarthy, give him additional time if you feel that that's necessary. So that doesn't wash one out. But there's just such a lack of patience where you think the opportunity to win with players at value, meaning their contractual value, rookie contracts around a quarterback, gives you so much more financial flexibility across the roster, when in reality, how often are we seeing rookie quarterbacks guide their teams to Super Bowls? It happens, but very rarely is the quarterback the driving force there. You have to have a Seattle-type Legion of Boom, Marshawn Lynch situation for Russell Wilson to be kind of the passenger in all that, still facilitate to an extent, but you don't put all of that burden on the quarterback right away. And I think there's multiple examples of that across the league where we've seen such a volume of quarterbacks crash out a little bit in their first spots because whether it's ownership, coaches, or otherwise, and the clock is ticking on coaches too, right? They're getting a lack of patience from the people at the top because everybody's trying to win at value.
Yeah, I think the difference between the Falcons and the Vikings is for the Falcons, they had Kirk Cousins first. Through free agency, they went out and got their guy. Then they drafted Michael Penix and made some people raise their eyebrows like, well, why did you do all this with Kirk Cousins if you were to go and take a quarterback in the first round versus J.J. McCarthy was drafted. Then they brought in Sam Darnold after that. So, you can see a young guy then making the decision to go young and say, hey, look, we're going to use this first pick of the draft to draft what is supposed to be our future. And then we'll bring in someone that possibly can subsidize the effort if it's not there, right? Versus what the Falcons did. The Falcons said, hey, look, we're going veteran. We're going to surround Kirk Cousins. We're going to get him one of them chains and make him do the dances that he was doing when he was in Minnesota and we'll do all the cool stuff. Oh, and we're also going to draft Michael Penix Jr. People are like, what?
I mean, it was kind of what happened when Aaron Rodgers was still in Green Bay and they decided to, with their first pick, take Jordan Love. And that paid off down the road, obviously. They kind of had a backup plan in a way, knowing they still had Aaron. But, hey, maybe we could just get this guy now, let him sit, and he'd be ready when he was ready. And he was.
Yeah. Well, the same thing happened with Robert Griffin III. Remember when they drafted him first and then they drafted the
Kirk
boy
Cousins.
from Kirk Cousins.
Oh, that's
right.
funny.
You're like, why would they do that?
Sure.
Because the fourth round pick, obviously, it's a good pick because people can build their draft around the middle round guys. And when he did that, you're like, man, what's going on? And ultimately, you saw it play itself out.
Yeah, and I think that hence then leads to what I was referencing is scheme and system. That's why they took Kirk Cousins in the 4th round with the Redskins at the time. Well, they weren't the Commanders for sure not at that time, and that's why they rolled the dice because I think who was the coordinator? Somebody named Shanahan. And he knew the guy that could fit his system, but he wanted to go with the number 1 pick. Maybe it had value. Maybe they thought they could trade, but they took him. And then once he got injured, it hence then was Kirk Cousins as the quarterback. So there's no one way to get your franchise quarterback. I think they've kind of decided to get the clock ticking for a new quarterback. Then that opens up the window for you as a head coach for a longer window of opportunity. Now, does that window change even after 1 year if it's not successful, if you do draft a quarterback? Levis, that's not to say that he's a franchise quarterback or not, because he could go in a couple years once he gets to a certain level and understanding of the league and how you have to protect the football and then have a successful career. I don't know, but maybe they know more than us because they know what's in between his ears, and maybe they just don't like that gambling Brett Favre type quarterback who's a willer and dealer. We want somebody who stays in the structure of our offense and then take calculated risk in our offense. So I think that's more what's going on here than what you see. Levis has a lot of tools. Doesn't mean you're a great player. There's always been players with great tools and they flame out. DeMarcus Russell, we can start there at quarterback. And so it's just interesting to see what will happen and why did they actually decide now to start him.
Yeah, and it's a question we should all ask. It's a fair question. It is the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. When we return, it's our final Pro Prop segment of the season. Thank goodness. Buck is obviously granted the winning rights here because he pretty much, took over Brad and I this season.
What?
We'll get you back next year.
Don't doubt me, Blaine.
But
all we do is win over here.
Right? We'll get the final bets. Plus, I know, Buck, you were in the locker room. I don't know if you had spoke to L'Jarius Sneed, but I know L'Jarius Sneed spoke in the locker room this week. We'll give the latest update on a weird injury this year that obviously put him out of service. That's next on the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff as the Titans get ready for the Houston Texans. Welcome into the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. We are rounding out hour one here. Lee Company, all you need. You can visit them online at leecompany.com. You can also trust them because the Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home to your next play. Visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. It's the final Pro Prop segment of the season. Jeff, how did Buck do last week? I know I lost. I think Blaine or Brad, did you lose?
I think I did. Well, I can't remember what my bet was.
I was trying to look it up for his because Brad had the Titans having the better third down conversion.
That's right.
So I'm currently looking to see if that was true.
Okay.
So he might have won.
But he did say a better third down percentage would lead to the win.
Don't throw shade over here.
But if they didn't do better in the third down, then obviously it shows the reason why they lost.
So there's a different reason if that's the case.
Yeah.
But Kayla, you had Spears anytime touchdown.
Yeah, the one time that he in 2 weeks that he,
And
touchdown.
Buck had the under in total points, which we talked about last week was 38, which is horrifyingly low, and it's still hit
Cash
under.
it, baby.
Yep, there he goes. And then ended the year. Hopefully, he'll give us his pick in a minute. What did Brad have? Did you look at? Okay,
I'll come back to you when I look it up.
But we do know Buck won for the season.
Yes, he did.
Oh man, your strategy worked.
I pick winners, baby.
Oh my!
I can't help that they keep losing, Blaine. They make it too easy. Blaine, listen to this, okay? Like I know you don't get into the gambling stuff very much, but this is something that was making the rounds last week. They are the worst team in terms of betting on the Tennessee Titans. Basically, since the NFL AFL merger, like there's never been a team as bad against the spread. 2-14 this year, but beyond just the record, they're 2-14 against the spread this year.
That's bad.
So not only will they lose football games, but they'll cost you money if you bet them.
And they have cost people money. Believe we had a parlay. Wow. I can't remember who had it the other day, and we were talking about it on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And the only leg that they lost was the Titans.
Oh my!
So,
well, I remember before the season started, they said 6.5 for the Titans wins. Was that right?
Yeah,
see, it was the projected Vegas win total.
The difference is Buck is betting actually as if he were a bettor, right? Mm-hmm. We're looking at prop situations like, will Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears get a touchdown? Will this guy get a catch? He's looking at over-under.
I'll do a prop.
He
was looking to win. You guys are looking to tank.
That's exactly. Well, we weren't just putting ourselves in a situation to actually put cash in the pocket, because if we were legitimately looking at it and say, hey, look, your livelihood depends on how you make these bets. Will we make the bets that we were making? No, we would look at the game legitimately and say, okay, this is the best chance for me to make some money. That's the way Buck has been looking at it the whole season.
If you're going to be miserable, you might as well make money. Let's go.
So, Jeff, what was the third down conversion?
So the Titans were 7 of 14 on third downs. Okay. The Jaguars 8 of 13. So they had 61%. The Titans had 50.
Barely.
And that's why they won. See, they lost. They lost because they didn't win the third down conversion.
You just did the prices right.
No.
W. No, because I said they would win it.
Yeah.
I said,
it's got to be the whole bet.
Got too confident.
Brad also gets detailed with his bets. I give him a pat on that, but he sometimes does a double bet.
Thought they could break even against a 3-win Jags team. Not so fast, my friend.
Not so fast.
The team that they lost to before.
What do you got this week then, Brad?
Oh, my goodness.
It's hard.
Will Calvin Ridley get 1,000 yards for the third straight season?
How many?
Against
59? How many?
He's got 964.
He's 59 away.
Yeah, okay.
59 away.
The thing is, he's probably going up against backups today, right?
No.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Probably at some point.
Yeah.
But they're not going to play the entire game. Let's just say that. So I think that there's more opportunity. And the fact that the running backs aren't as healthy this year. Tajay will not be out there. Tony Pollard might be out there. So I think that this is more opportunity. And we're putting Will Levis out there to play with Mason Rudolph because they're going to be slinging the bean around, right? Which means more opportunity for Calvin Ridley to get those yards, to get 1,000 yards. Let's go for it. Calvin Ridley, he crosses the 1,000-yard mark today, the last game of the season.
There it is. Pro prop, and that'd be a good one to see at least. I mean, even if you don't win the game, at least some of your guys got some incentives.
How much does he get? Do we know?
So I have it right here in the rundown. So he would receive.
So this would be 2 years in a row, right? He did it with the Jags on the last game as well.
Mm-hmm. No, actually, it does not give the details on what he would receive.
Either way, cash money,
he's just
baby.
looking for his third season of 1,000 yards. We could maybe get that.
Because when they were making the incentives, they said, hey, look, Calvin, we'll throw in there this bonus.
Right.
That if you get 1,000 yards, because they're figuring, hey, if Calvin really got 1,000 yards, we're doing pretty good. We're probably in the playoffs.
Jags thought so too last year.
Yeah, they did.
Yep. Okay, Buck. Buck scrolling
But as
through
an
the
individual,
FanDuel.
that's a goal.
Oh, no,
like
sure.
that, so it's still pretty
matters.
good.
Yeah, no, it absolutely. And he was adamant on it, you guys, in the locker room. Oh my gosh, he was
guys have
adamant
pride
on
for
like,
that.
I'm going to get me that 1,000
Well,
yards.
yeah, no, that is still, a testament to who he is. That the season, I mean, Calvin Ridley left you wanting a little bit this year with how the season started versus how it kind of leveled out a little bit down the stretch. But I think it's, I still consider Calvin Ridley a good decision by this team on aggregate, maybe not quite to the extent of Tony Pollard. Like Tony Pollard and Nick Folk are the best transactions that Rand Carthon has made, that front office, we'll say, has made since they got here. Now you can, debate, well, you should have just kept Derrick Henry if you're going to give a running back that money. It's, that's a different conversation. Also, Derrick wants to win meaningfully, and you see the dividends that's paying. Derrick also would have wanted to, or would have had to wanted to stay here, and that was definitely not the case trending towards the end. But I think Calvin Ridley, on the whole, even if the season didn't go exactly your way, I still feel better about having Calvin Ridley on the roster than not, is what we can leave it at that. The over-under in this game is 36.5. That is hideous. Hideous. And I'll take the under.
You're taking the under, right?
It's 36 and a half.
Sloppy game.
Yeah,
From
you're
you guys
right.
about gambling.
Yeah.
Under.
Yeah.
Under. 36 and a half.
backups, yeah, all that stuff.
All right.
Oh, man.
But backups may tend to lead to scoring.
Yeah, if the defense is porous.
Sometimes, yeah.
Never know.
I wish I could find the prop on total team. I want to find a prop on like total turnovers in a game because that would be more interesting. With the weather, with the way that C.J. Stroud's kind of played under duress, with obviously Will Levis and Mason Rudolph in the mix, and the amount of times that they've turned the ball over, but I'm not able to find that on FanDuel right now.
Kayla has a weather update of how it's supposed to be, right, Kayla?
Well, I mean,
What is it supposed to be? We all know this is
so
subjective here.
it is. Well, obviously it's raining right now, and luckily we did not have to come in the freezing rain. But the weather here; it could change at any minute. It's supposed to, obviously rain and everything here for the next few hours. Then it's supposed to warm up a little. And then it's supposed to get really cold again tonight. So just prepare for anything. If you're coming to the game, I would literally bring every coat you had just in case, some other different type of weather pops up.
Bring a poncho for sure.
Absolutely.
There's going to be precipitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, school's probably going to be out tomorrow because that rain will then turn to ice if it gets cold.
Yep.
You don't want any bus drivers slinging your kids into a ditch. So guess what? You're probably out of school.
My bus driver did that once. So for my bet, real quick, guys, before we get to LeJerry Sneed, if you want to sit there and say that you've won all year just doing the simple bets, then that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take Houston Texans plus 1.5.
Side?
Yeah, I did.
That's because I've already won. There's nothing left.
I just went to the deep dark side of gambling. Plus 1.5 Houston Texans.
Oh, yeah. The fact that they're getting points is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I know that their starters may not play the entire game, but the fact that the Titans are favored at home today is kind of wild.
Blaine, you piggyback or you come up with your own bet?
No, what was your bet?
My bet
was supposed to pick one of you guys.
My bet was that Calvin Ridley crosses the 1,000-yard mark.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's definitely going to happen. I think this is. I look at my and in the rain, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Well, Levis the quarterback. That's what you really want to say.
Oh,
yeah, no. I don't know. You know what? I'm going off of Phil since she's now the dark side. I'm going to go with Kayla. Yes, I'm going to go with Kayla.
Welcome to the dark
I'm the
side.
only one.
Blaine.
So
I'm the only
it
one.
is what it is.
Love it.
Mark that down, Jeff, that I'm the only one.
Yes, he's sticking to his
stayed
pro
strong.
prop. Yes.
And, just your reward for that is an L.
Oh, that sucks. To tell Calvin Ridley that he's not going to get his 1,000 then.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I might have to after the game. We'll see.
It's curious that he does not get it.
Who said that I'm cheering?
No, your facial expression said it all.
Listen to me. No. If I have never rooted for or against the Tennessee Titans, but so help me God, if they win this football game today,
Wow.
And you're not the odd man out on this.
never once, but like Blaine. They have to lose this game.
I'm with you. Hey, that's why I went with that.
It's a big difference, right? Being a top 3 pick to
The thing is, I understand both perspectives. I understand Jeffrey Simmons' perspective.
Oh,
hey,
sure.
you're a player. Go out there and do the best you can.
And it's not saying that
hopefully it
they
wins the game.
can't do that and
But
still
then when
lose
you
the
look,
game.
yeah, but when you look at the logistics of it all, you're
Right.
like, man, you guys are this close
Yeah.
to picking the best player of the draft.
No, it's the difference between thinking with your head and thinking with your heart. Like your heart tells you if you're a fan of any team, no matter what the team is, you don't want to ever see your team lose and be
If
miserable.
you're at this point and this close, why not just go.
You know, like at this point, just send it.
Okay, but okay. How about for the people out there that have been in that stadium since it first opened? What do you want to see? Because you're a tried and true. Those same people will be sitting in wet seats today, right?
And I've heard from those people this week that are
what
like,
have
we
they
don't want to
said by
see
and
a
large?
loss, but at the same time,
See, they put a but in there, the caveat. First pick of the draft.
I think a prop bet should be if in the fourth quarter the Titans score to lead, that people will boo.
Oh, no, they're
Or cheer.
If they win.
Or cheer. See, right, that's what I'm getting.
Listen to me.
that'd be wild.
They take the lead in the fourth quarter.
score.
You know what?
Will they boo?
I'll do final.
Will Levis with a 2-minute
throws
drill
it.
touchdown at the end of the game to win it.
Listen to me.
Typical Titans right there.
I will go Final Jeopardy on this. I'll put my entire, I know it's not a winning record this year, but I won. So I'll put my entire winning season, quote unquote, on the line.
Okay.
There is no chance in hell that if that football team wins today, that they don't get booed.
Oh, man.
No chance in hell.
Okay.
I think there's something to that.
Yeah, I do
I'm excited
too.
about
Say.
seeing what happens
Like
with
that
that,
joke.
Buck.
He scored 2-minute drive to score.
Yeah.
If it's 2 minutes.
It's like the
Zero
only 2-minute
time.
drive this year. They
No
didn't-
time left. No
Yeah.
time left. Final kick to win
God.
it. Booze.
All right, it is the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. We had so much fun with that segment. We didn't get a chat about LeJerry Sneed, but we will do that in hour 2. It is the Lee Company countdown to kickoff pregame show. Titans and Texans today at Nissan Stadium.
What's up? It's Will Bowling here, checking in from the Bankers Alley Hotel for one final time this regular season. Guys, we are warm and we are well fed. Got good drinks, the cocktails, the food, it's going, and you can come join us here. But if you're heading over to Nissan Stadium, 221 2nd Avenue North, that is where you stop by. $30 valet parking, you know the drill by this point, in week 18. $20 to park here and walk across the bridge. If you want to dine in, have a drink, have a cocktail, I'm rocking the Irish coffee. As always, warm us up a little bit before we head over to Nissan Stadium. Come by and see us, 221 2nd Avenue North. Say hey, we're sitting here right when you walk in, and we got some giveaways for you as well, courtesy of our friends at the Bankers Alley Hotel. Gray and Dudley, right here, brunch, burger, Bloody Marys, coffees, you name it, they've got it here, getting ready for Titans and Texans.
It is hour 2 of the Lee Company countdown to kickoff as we get ready for the season finale between the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. I got the whole gang here. We've got Blaine Bishop, Brad Hopkins, Buck Rising, Kayla Anderson here. We are indoors, just to let you know, if you are headed out to the game, you're not going to find us out there today because of the inclement weather. And this was Buck's decision, I should say,
yes,
to be inside today. Yeah. He wanted to make sure that the suit looked nice and didn't get, the hair didn't get all messy and everything.
Well, I got so much hairspray in this thing ain't moving rain or shine.
It's just sticky now if you get in the rain.
No, it's just hard. It's like a helmet.
I know. I use hairspray too.
I'm seeing a little gray around the ears there too.
That's what your football team's done to me this year. I'm 31. I got grays in my sideburns. I got grays in my beard. This season's aged me 10 years.
Right?
Looking like Dr. Strange over there.
Feels, right? Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Facility managers, I should say, trust their reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24 service and their team of experts. Your next play, visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. In the first hour, we talked about, obviously, the quarterback situation. I did want to get to, though, L'Jarius Sneed. And, Buck, you were in the locker room this week with me, and L'Jarius Sneed, talking to the group of reporters, giving an update on the whole quad injury that he sustained this season, which was very weird. He had surgery 6 weeks ago.
He said, and you guys tell me if you've ever had this experience, because obviously professional athletes have surgery, on a variety of different things as you go through the course of your careers, a 100% chance of injury. But he said that the delay in shutting him down was because they couldn't really figure out, the medical professionals tasked with figuring out what was going on. It's a quote, could not quite figure out what the injury was.
To his quad.
To his quad. And I know that there can be some complications, and I'm not a medical professional, and I've never had that injury myself, so I'm not gonna speculate on what that was. But he said he had a bone marrow injection procedure. He's been wearing a brace since then. He has had significant issues to the point where he's had to wear crutches dealing with this injury at this point in time, and it's just been labeled now generally a quad injury, not a strain, not a bruise, because he wouldn't give specifics on, what procedure was for what specific part of him, because there's also the knee health in there that there's been a process to maintain and a plan to maintain. But this is completely separate, it sounds like. This thing has been labeled a strain after being initially called a bruise, and I'm trying to figure out for such a routine injury, why it was so difficult to figure out exactly what happened here. And of course, just speaking for all four of us, we don't have his medicals. Right. So this is just speculation on our part. I'm just trying to figure out how the hell, as a team doctor or any outside consultation that he might have gone and sought for this injury, why it took so long for them to figure out what the hell happened to this guy.
I don't know, man. I'm going by the way of Joe Rogan. He doesn't trust any doctor nowadays. If he had something problematic with the knee and the quad, wouldn't it make it harder for him to rehab the quad if something was wrong with your knee, assuming that they're on the same leg?
I mean, he's always said of the knee thing that I'm healthy. It's kind of like Tajay with his lack of ACL. I'm healthy. It doesn't bog me down. It's what it is. There's a plan for me to continue to be available, but his company line has always been, I'm healthy. It's a non-issue. Because the plan, theoretically, to maintain whatever degenerative situation he might have in his knees, it was working until the quad strain, bruise, whatever the hell.
I don't get the bone marrow part.
Yeah, I'm
That's
really
the part that puts me
lost.
in terms of what the.
So did he have surgery on his actual quad, right? That's when he had surgery, and then he had bone marrow for his knee. As I'm trying to get correct here.
So he did not specify. He did not tell us that one was for one thing and the surgery was for another.
Yeah,
because he was pressed on this, Blaine, and he kept, after disclosing that much, he didn't want to get into much.
He said on his left leg that tracks from his quad down to his shin, he had bone marrow injection procedure.
Oh, that sounds like it's just for his quad.
Mm.
I mean, that's how I hear it. I don't know, because he said for his quad that went down the way down to his calf.
when asked about
I
the
don't
left
know,
leg
but what I can say
brace.
is I thought in the beginning that a quad bruise can sometimes linger for a long time, and it can turn into a hard knot, as I said before, because he was out so long. I kept on saying, man, maybe it was something to that extent. Sometimes you can, when you have, it's like a hamstring injury. Mm-hmm. And so we all know how those all play out. That's kind of what a quad, especially if you get kneed or hit in that area, it can go in a different direction. So I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm not a doctor, but that's the only thing I could think. I've never even heard of this bone marrow for a quad injury and surgery, unless it was detached or something.
I've heard of transplants, but not an injection.
It's just like in this day and age with all of the technology that we have and, being in a health kind of city in terms of Vanderbilt, it's just crazy to me. And you can go in other places and get, a third or fourth opinion on things. You don't even have to obviously stay here. A lot of guys just go back to California like D-Hop did at the beginning of the season. So it is strange. Any worries, though, you guys, like that could affect just next year and his availability? I mean, that's where the signal goes off in my head.
I think his future will be obvious if this is something that's lingering through the offseason and affects him being able to, obviously be in there for camp and do all the things that show he's ready to go, because you have plenty of time off. Guys have broken a leg and have come back. With time enough to play in the season, especially with all the year that he's missed this year. So if it's still an issue for him heading into, like, say, the beginning of training camp for next year, man, they will start making some contingencies to move on. I mean, now the thing is, the silver lining would be that there are a lot of younger players that got to play, that got some experience, got to show that they're
including Jarvis Bramley,
exactly what their worth is. And if that's the case, then maybe you see more of that, or they maybe address it with throwing some cash at it with a veteran that is looking to make a little bit more money.
And Baker did a good job too. Well, do you understand how his contract, Kayla Buck, on how his contract is structured going into next season?
Snead or Baker?
Snead.
I can give you the specifics.
I think Baker's a free agent. That was a 1 year deal, or no?
Yeah, but he's like a restricted free agent. Let me find you the exact details on L'Jarius Snead's contract situation, because it would cost to cut him next year. It's a 4-year deal, and it's not just. It's not just about that. It's about the draft capital that you gave up to get him. And listen,
third rounder.
It's results in hand. Yeah, congratulations to the Chiefs for having the Tennessee Titans 66th overall pick next year.
Yep, that's a biggie.
Just a number of different things that frustrate you about the way that this season has gone. But for L'Jarius Snead, it's a 4-year, $76.4 million deal. The potential out would be in 2026 because the dead cap, if you'll allow me to scroll over here, drops significantly from 25 to 26. It goes from $35 million next year to $12 in 2026. And his cap, you want to guess what his cap is this year, Blaine? 9.96. Next year it's 24.
Whoa, so you can't be
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So it's 35 to cut him. Straight up, dead cap.
Well, I don't think that's a positive. I mean, you can cut him, but you're going to have to pay him because he's injured.
Sure.
So yep. That's so you're going to try to play it out and do all the things you can to see if you can get him back out there, and then hope for the best. If not, then you're going to have him around until at least try to get some out of him.
Yeah, it's $44 million guaranteed. He's getting it no matter what. Wow. So, and that's, again, kind of taking, and there'll be plenty of time for all of us on the respective shows and podcasts and whatnot to kind of do an autopsy on what this season has been, right? And kind of take a look at what we thought it was going to be versus what it ended up being. But the one of the biggest issues that I had with their offseason is the amount of money that they paid two corners, the amount of guaranteed money that they paid two corners.
Two corners with injury history.
Well, it's not even it is an injury history, and that's also a part of it, but it's specific to that position. Blaine, I don't think there's a position that comes with more variance in the NFL than playing corner because of the way that the game is officiated right now. It's very, very difficult because of the athleticism that's required and how quickly that can dip even year over year. I just think there's so many opportunities for that risk to not necessarily be worth the reward on both sides of things. And That to me was probably one of the biggest things that I nitpicked about what their offseason plan. No disputing that they needed corner help, but I just couldn't understand why they gave
up that draft capital, no doubt.
The draft capital.
I think everybody was with that.
And the guaranteed money to both Snead and Cheeto.
And I think the Cheeto one, if I can chime in here, I think there were some things and some conversations had between Brian Callahan and Rand on how can I bring in some of the guys I do have familiarity with, right? Mm-hmm. Because we did see some of those Cincinnati Bengal guys come over. I would think it's not right to say that there would be no connection to why those guys came over to Brian Callahan. So I do feel like some of those moves,
he actively campaigned for Snead.
Right?
He thinks that Snead is the best corner in football.
Right. And Chidobe Awuzie with the connection to Brian Callahan and Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I feel like that was a big reason why he came over here. Because I can't necessarily say I would have maybe made both those moves with the history that they had, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think that was always under question on both signings. So you just hopefully sometimes it plays itself out, and there's not a history here where it happened to you too. But in this case, you can definitely say, especially on the Snead, because you gave up the capital. That's a tough pill to swallow. And then now he's in this position of you don't even know if he's going to be available next.
Exactly, that's still a question mark. Yep.
I mean, they got that with him and Cushenberry. That's an Achilles.
Because Cush might not be back
on November
right away.
20th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they broke the trend. Remember, the trend was that
they don't spend money.
Don't spend no money.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden,
they've done that before, Brad. They paid Lawan top of market. Yeah. They paid Harold at the top of the market. They paid Byard at the top of the market. They
have guys that they already had.
Oh yeah, okay.
You're re-signing a guy for that money because you want to keep him. I'm talking about going in there and bringing in a free agent like a Calvin Ridley, like a L'Jarius Snead, dudes that were on the street that said, "Hey, look, I'm going to require a handsome ransom, and you're going to pay it." And Amy's done that. She stroked the check. So I think that when you look at that, people would want to get the L'Jarius Snead that played for Andy Reid versus the one that we got this year. And I think he's still out there, but he has to be healthy enough to play at that level.
Yeah, but we get the Titans coverage right here on national news right now.
Well, it only happens when Will Levis surrender Cobras or somebody's getting fired.
ESPN, they're doing a safe or not in terms of coaches next year. And Brian Callahan was on the list. And Adam Schefter putting up there leaning to safe, at least his.
It's yellow, though. It's yellow.
Leaning.
It's not green.
It's not green.
It's not green.
Leaning.
It's yellow. It's in the middle.
Leaning to safe.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I genuinely wonder, like, we talk about
So
this.
what changes that then?
If they win. Like, no, seriously.
Wow.
Today? Just one
in terms
game?
of the red, if they win.
If they win a football game and actively prevent themselves an opportunity to get the number 1 overall pick, don't act like owners don't think this way sometimes.
I want to be an owner.
Do you think Amy is going to submit today?
Show my
I'm going to fire you, Callie, if you win.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I don't know what this is. This is the thing that I'll say about the Titans organization.
Yeah.
Not a single solitary person beyond Amy Adams Strunk knows what the hell they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's why it's leaning towards, right? And still in yellow, where you're talking about, I don't know, because nobody trusts what's coming out of the organization from an informational standpoint at a given point, because she can be thinking one way and then completely change her mind. She's done it multiple times across multiple coaches and multiple GMs. So to act here and sit here and act like anybody definitively knows what the hell Amy Adams Strunk is going to do come Black Monday tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Think about that, though. I don't think that the conversation is had between front office and, say, the coaching staff to say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. We need to secure the number 1 pick.
I don't think that's a conversation, but it doesn't.
Right. But all I'm saying is that how then do the coaches approach the week by saying, hey, look, we need less than your best?
I don't think that's the conversation.
Starting
I think they just say you're going to play the backups. That's the only way you can tank. And because they're not as good. Just think about your backup. He was nowhere near as good as
you guys
that's
heard
a great
the
point.
list of outs that I announced at the beginning of the show.
The way that you can secure that without legitimately tanking your efforts is by putting guys in there that are less qualified to win a game.
And in their case, the most valuable position.
Have you finished your report, please?
We need to see the depth of the roster and how they're going to play.
If you don't have it, I have it. But there is a significant amount of guys that are either questionable or out. Tyler Boyd, Nick Folk, Kamani Hooker, Arden Key, Tajay Spears, Otis Reese is on IR.
Arden had incentives, and he's not going to play.
Yeah, Jalen Duncan's out. And then questionable is Tony Pollard. We'll see here in just a second when inactives come out, what's going on with that.
Also, they activated some guys I've never heard of. I didn't even know they were on the practice. You guys would know.
Tay Martin. Tay Martin's one of those guys.
Tay
Yeah,
Martin?
he's a wide receiver.
Tay Martin's been around for a while.
Tay Martin. Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Like, to what Buck said,
T.
though,
Martin.
Arden Key has some money on the table. He could be leaving, but he's not going to play today.
Yeah,
Nope.
Yep.
He didn't say no. Did he say no? No, he didn't do a Deontay Johnson.
Is he
Gonna be out
injured?
on
Is
the
he
field.
injured?
Who? Arden?
I think he's a little beat up.
He's been on
What's
the
that?
injury
A little beat
report.
up.
Well, what's you guys tell me as football players? What's the difference between hurt and injured?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a huge difference between hurt and injured.
Correct.
Everybody's hurt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody's hurt. If you're not hurt
Physically and mentally.
right?
Right.
But
That was
injured,
double dose.
Injured means that you're spending time in the infirmary.
Yeah, the training room, man.
Yeah, that means that you're spending more time with them than you are with the coaching staff. That's injured. Hurt. What wasn't hurting on you by the time you had 18 weeks done, Blaine? I mean, everything was your toenails were hurting.
It is the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. So they got the Houston Texans once this year, guys. I mean, honestly, when we look at the overall year, that's one of the games.
Man,
and again,
soccer.
Houston's down, right? There's no doubt about it that Houston is not the same Houston that it was last year. Some of that goes to C.J. Stroud, and he's regressed a little bit, as a lot of these quarterbacks do in year two. But that's one of the bigger wins that they had. Does sweeping the Texans today in the Love You Blues, yes, I'm going to throw that out there because it does mean more to Amy Adams Strunk sometimes in terms of the history of this, to incorporate this. Does it mean anything to sweep them? Or is that just, like you said, if you don't lose this game, this is a bad thing?
Look, I'm just going to throw this out there. I hate even thinking like this, but
You're wearing the
What
Houston
does-
Oilers sweatshirt, by the way,
yeah.
to add to this.
Yeah, it's 94, baby. This thing is almost old as most people listen to this show.
Oh, I thought that was like a rebirth. Like I thought that was like
no,
a rebirth.
no. You see
That's
this
like
right
old
here?
school.
You
I
see,
use
this is
mine
that
for
number
Russell
72 in the
Russell
tag.
pajamas.
Athletics.
This was
I use
given
that for
to
my
us.
pajamas.
Dude,
Yeah,
that is
That's a
sweet
year younger than
sweatshirt.
me, Brad.
Exactly.
Can you
this
still-
this
can you-
sweatshirt is a year
Can
You
What's
younger.
still
in
fit your
this?
sweatpants, though? I had to cut mine.
Yes,
Oh,
you know
those
what?
are so
I can't
cool.
fit them because that's when I was wearing a 48 size pants.
They're too big. They too big.
When I had that pedunka. Anyway, listen. What does Deion Sanders think about Nashville?
Who? Huh? What?
Oh,
Just go with me there. Let's just say they draft this kid. They think that, hey, if anything, we're going to take Shador. I don't think it's that long before Deion says, hey, I'd rather have the opportunity to control the development of my kid at the highest level. And if you're talking question marks, or like Adam Schefter had Callie's job in the yellow as far as safe.
Safe, kinda?
right. Kind of.
In a package deal, at some point, Deion's coaching here. Come on, man. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because anything can happen.
Well, Deion also has to approve of the Titans organization
Exactly.
because that's something
That's
that
part of it.
he has said that he was going to.
Well, they're building a brand new stadium across the street.
Well, a stadium is one thing, but the infrastructure to
Stability.
support his son, and he said that he's going to do this for Shiloh. He said that he's going to do this for Travis Hunter, that he's going to privately advocate for where he thinks these players should go because he feels he wields that level of influence. And he's one of the most influential people in football.
Yeah.
There's no disputing that. But I'm not going to pretend to know what Deion Sanders thinks of the Titans organization. I guess we'll find out.
I think that if he feels that he has a lot of autonomy to do the things that he feels need to be done to make
Sure.
a winning franchise, I think Amy would be all on board for that. So I'm just throwing it out there because I'm of the opinion that wherever Shador goes, Deion will follow not that soon after. I know he said his commitment to Colorado, yada, 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 but come on, man.
Blaine, I thought you made really good points about Deion and Shador this week on Cover 2.
I don't even remember what I said, but I don't think Deion Sanders is coming to Nashville.
Yeah.
Because his son may get drafted here. I don't believe. First of all, he got to take a huge pay cut. So you make way more money there in Colorado. And Deion Sanders is all about that moolah, and he's a salesman. I think he understands. He wants to do the best for his kids to make sure he puts him in the best situation. But then to think he could come in and then control an organization and leverage that, I just don't see that. I don't see this any different than Eli Manning in the Manning situation. So that's kind of where I'm at. Things have changed along the way, but I'm not with Deion is going to be an issue. That's what you didn't ask about wherever his son goes. He may be about certain organizations, but I think he also actually said that he liked Nashville. So I just don't. That doesn't mean he's going to be here as a coach. That's a stretch. If you get that one right, man. Hey, man.
No, I just threw that out there as a scenario. I didn't say that was going to happen. I mean, obviously, this conversation, especially if you look at the F&M Bank chat, people are like, Sanders loading and all this other stuff, and getting Shakur, who probably or maybe is the best quarterback. And if quarterback is an issue, is that the way they're going to address it here? And I'm saying if that were to happen, could it be a possibility? That's the way I threw that out there. I wasn't saying he's going to come here.
I'll tell you the business office.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You
I'm a Cam Ward fan, so I've talked to his cousin too, Quandre Diggs, about Cam, and it was interesting. He was in the locker room. He had surgery too, and I asked him about Cam taking himself out of the game. He said that actually was not his.
Right. He had told the coach before that on hand. The coach kind of threw him on the bus, but not saying anything, right?
So
yeah,
there's a lot of a turnover happy side of Cam Ward, but there is also a lot of the way he plays the game, the way that things don't bother him, the way that he makes big plays to make up for those other plays. Like I could go on and on watching this guy for the last 4 years. But if he's gone at one,
what would you do at two? That's what
I'd take Shedeur then probably.
Yeah.
From a system fit, like based on who these two players are,
and that's the thing. I'm not Callie.
Yeah.
I
think
that's the thing.
Callahan's preference would be for Shedeur based on at least the style of offense that they run here versus how these two players play. Because Cam Ward, to me, is the better quarterback, but Shedeur would likely be the better fit. And, whether or not that's worthy of the number 1 or number 2 overall pick, that's a determination that they'll have to make. You've seen a lot of and there's smoke screens at this time of year. There's lies that are out there. There's all manner of crap that gets, all manner of sewage that gets brought up during the draft process. So you just have to be cognizant of it and take everything with a grain of salt. But you saw Tom Pelissero, who I don't think anybody would argue against Tom's credibility at this point in time, going on NFL Network yesterday and saying, I've talked to a variety of different teams that don't have a first-round grade on Shedeur, and that's something that's going to be taken into consideration, even for teams who have quarterback needs. And listen, it would make sense to get a Derek Carr or a Kirk Cousins and also draft Shedeur to Atlanta your way through this thing. But the thing about Shedeur is there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure publicly, maybe privately, depending on what Dion thinks of the veteran quarterback that may or may not be in front of his son, that may force their hand before they might be ready to play a player like that. Again, there's a million different things that they could do should they get in position to have that kind of leverage. The question, that remains with today's game is, are they going to be in that position to have that kind of leverage?
Yeah. It is the Lead Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lead Company, all you need. Visit them online at leadcompany.com. Before we head to break, we do have to head out to the Bridge Building and the Titans VIP tailgate underway now with our own Ron Slay. We've got DJ C-Wiz there. How's it going? Any liveliness pickup here?
Signs of life.
Yeah, no, Buck. No, I mean, we got people actually falling out of the door right now. What? Yes.
They're tipsy already?
Oh, man, it is a real live party in here today, KK. I'm telling you. See, don't let Buck bring y'all down, man. Keep your spirits high. Understand that all you got to do is slide over here to the Bridge Building, and you can get all of this great energy, all this love, all this tighten up energy, and take it right into Nissan Stadium. That's what it's about. This is what we do at the Bridge Building for the VIP Titans tailgate experience. And I know what Buck is thinking right now. Well, Slay, if they falling out the door, let me hear the people. So what I'm going to do is, hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get a tighten up on 3? 1, 2, 3. Whoa. Let's try it one more time.
He say whoa.
He said whoa.
1, 2, 3. There we go. Right. There. See, we just didn't turn the music down, man. I'm blaming that on my DJ.
Oh,
he didn't turn the music down.
Oh no,
this is questionable there, Slay.
People on a live microphone heard you say, "Oh no."
That's listen. Sometimes you got to pull the curtain back to let people know.
To synchronize them.
What's really going on? Yeah,
get out of here.
Come on, man. It's going wild over here, Buck. No, get off me, y'all. Get off of me. Get away from the DJ booth. I'm fighting them off right now, y'all.
Pushing them off of me.
Oh, goodness.
You're having to push them off to so many people there.
Well, go check out Ron Slay at the Bridge Building, the Titans VIP party. You still have plenty of time to do it. Get some cocktails in you before you go watch whatever this game might be today.
Hey, let me ask you this, though, KK. And B-Hop, Hitman, Buckaroo, listen, man, I heard y'all talking about Shador, Cam Ward,
Yeah.
All these picks. What's a good overhaul to give up, though, that one of those top 3 picks?
To trade down?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
That
That's
chart,
the
Jimmy
question
Johnson's trade chart would be worth consulting on that, Slay, but like say the Raiders want him because they're going for glitz and glamour. I'd take Max Crosby a first and a second and feel pretty good about that.
There we go.
I'd bring Max
now
Crosby
that's
all
what I'm
day.
talking
And that's
about.
something that Zach Lyons has brought up too, for sure.
Zach brought that
I
up.
don't know.
Okay.
Trey Hendricks. Well, the
they
Bengals will be on it.
need somebody on the line. Like, let's
Well,
just.
they're also saying that it's not a deep draft for high quality first round picks after 10, 15, that most of these guys are just good players and not elite, Pro Bowl players initially right off the bat. So, or impactful players. So that'll be interesting. How far do you want to trade back in this year if you got an opportunity to do it?
So, Hitman, do you try to go over and get some from next year's draft? And
maybe.
try to bridge with some second rounders this year?
Depends on the long-term plan, but the patience is always an
That's
issue.
what I was going to say.
That patience, yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Who
Patience
has
here.
the patience?
I don't know, man.
You're right.
Tough call.
But the one
All right,
thing one thing we do know, Slay, is they've said time and time again, we got to build this through the draft, right?
Yeah,
So the more picks, the
absolutely.
merrier.
Yep. Knew that
You got
coming
any
into it.
picks for us? Prop picks or anything?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna go over to the door and help the coat check person. I'll be back.
Peace, Slay.
Wow.
That is Slay,
Slay
God.
out.
He's at the Bridge Bill if you want to go check him out. Buck has already got his stuff. He's ready to go. We've hit 10:27. He is out the door. He's headed to the building. He's going to be on Titans radio here. So we got to make sure he gets there. So, Buck, thank you for gracing us with your presence today. Hopefully the sleet doesn't get to you in your hair.
Oh, it's sleeting already?
It's going to at some point around kickoff. Let me say this:
Drive
whatever
carefully.
we make jokes and whatever, but like I have thoroughly enjoyed doing this with the three of you. It's a good time, no matter what we're talking about. You'd like to be talking about better football on a regular basis, but I do really appreciate getting to spend this time with you guys. So thanks for making it fun.
Absolutely. It's been great this
Appreciate
year,
it.
Buck. Appreciate you and everything you bring to the table. Drive safe over there.
doubt.
We'll see you over there.
you, kids.
Oh, by the way, can you put something over on my chair to save it since I'm going directly to there? I'll talk to you on the break. Anyway, it's Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lee Company.
Save
all
my
you
chair.
need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. We'll wrap up the show when we get back.
All right, one final time here this season from the Bankers Alley Hotel here at Gray and Dudley. This is the perfect place to start your game day. $30 valet parking for Titans and Texans, or should I say Oilers and Texans today. $20 if you come inside, have a drink, and try out this brunch burger and Bloody Mary combo. $25 gets you a brunch burger. Got the bacon, got the egg on it, the spectacular Gray and Dudley Bloody Mary as well. Or maybe you're like me, you want to just skip ahead to lunch. You're thinking, I want one of the best old fashions in town. They've got it right here. Our guy David will hook you up. It is a great, great place to start your game day and to spend time in downtown. This beautiful restaurant here at 221 2nd Avenue North. We got some giveaways for you. We'll talk some Oilers and Texans, and remind everyone from the city of Houston who the Oilers property really belongs to, and that's us here in Nashville. 221 2nd Avenue North. Come by and see us, Gray and Dudley and the Bankers Alley Hotel. The perfect place to start your game day. Warm inside here, getting you ready up until kickoff for Titans and Texans.
Welcome into the Lee Company countdown to kickoff as we get ready for the season finale today at Nissan Stadium between the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Inside the building here today, because of weather, we've got Blaine Bishop, Brad Hopkins, I'm Kayla Anderson, Buck Rising, headed over to the stadium as we speak. And here we go. It is the season finale, folks. Of course, Lee Company, all you need, visit them on Lee Company at leecompany.com. Facility managers need a reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24/7 service and their team of experts. Your next play, visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Guys, here we are, season finale. And I feel like just a mixed bag of emotions on what to feel about this game. You want to see them win.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, that high pick, the top 3 pick, has to happen if they lose.
That's the only caveat that makes it an interesting scenario, is because of what happens if the Titans lose. Otherwise, people would definitely want the Titans to go out on a good note. They want to feel good about heading into the offseason.
Like last year.
Right. Show some potential, especially for some players that need to prove more of their value than anything else. But when you're playing the draft game, and like you mentioned, Kayla, either it was on the air or even just during the break, of how building this team through the draft was going to be, the course of action, this is a huge stepping stone, because you're probably going to take, the best available college athlete, regardless of position, with that first pick. And you also can think about what that does for national coverage for the Tennessee Titans as well.
That's a biggie, right?
Yeah, the first guy get taken in the draft usually gets a lot of face time. Mm-hmm. And that means that, the more eyeballs will be on this product. So if you're thinking about...
And they need a quarterback possibly, right?
True.
In terms of they could go out. So that always brings even more attention when you're in the mix for possibly a quarterback, which they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is, I want to make a comparison. I can't think of one. It's like, when you're going with your kids to, some little league travel ball type atmosphere, and you're exhausted and it's Sunday, and you're like, man, I hope we lose so we can leave now.
Yeah.
It looks like the weather is going to be bad. We're not going to win at all. The other teams are better than us. Let's just lose now. But you're never saying that. You're just sitting there like, hey, let's go. And thinking, oh, my God, I hope this is the last freaking game.
Exactly.
This is where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
With this team. And man, let's get it over with. Let's kind of move forward and see what are the big heavy hitters and decision makers in the front office as well as ownership, what direction they want to go. And they're going to start playing their hand with, we know free agency is first.
There are a lot of parents that are not in their heads in agreement with you, Blaine, because they're sitting in the stands wanting to support their kid, and they love the fact
I'm supporting my kid, but I'm like, let's go.
Hope he strikes out.
Yeah, I think a whole bunch of people said that.
Especially this type of day when you're out there. Yeah,
you're conflicted. You want them to do well, but if we lose,
that means we got to come back here at 7 o'clock tonight for another.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though.
That's how I feel. So this has been such a miserable season, man, that we've covered in a long time. It's kind of painful, especially being a former player for the organization. It's really tough, and man, you just want the best. And this is shocking for all of us, even going into the season, that the expectations were at least be a middle-of-the-road team. So they definitely have let us down, whether we're talking about performance from the players to actually coaching and first-year coaches. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. To me, I thought this would be a great game to let the OC quarterback coach make play calls.
Ooh.
I thought that was a little comment. I said that on the Blaine and Zach show.
Brian Callahan just be the coach.
CEO.
And have someone... Bo Hardigree Nick Holtz.
Holtz, right?
Yeah, the offensive coordinator.
And first time be calling. Guess what? That's another form of we're trying to do our best, but we're not. But it's also evaluation.
Sure.
Too at the same time. Because I think some coaches changes going to be made, but which ones? I have no idea.
Would you ever see a world, and this has happened before, so it's not like this hasn't happened, where Brian would be told, hey, you remain the head coach, but we need you to find a guy that's going to call the plays. Would that ever happen?
But what was his strength when he came here from Cincinnati? Was it play calling or was
No,
it?
he wasn't the play caller.
He
wasn't the play caller.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
I guess my point would be,
I'd say more of a.
are you asking him to do more of the, I guess, the handling of the team itself on both sides of the football, being like you just mentioned, blame the CEO versus someone that has the playbook in their hand,
or more being able to spend time also, not only that, but with the quarterback.
Well, I'm also saying this is also another form of the word T. You like let somebody else call it this game and just see what they look like and see how much you want to have input from them, even more moving forward, being that he was the play caller. There's just a lot of different avenues to me I would be experimenting with what I could in reason. You're experimenting with some players who would play if it was playoffs on the line, and then they're not even dressing. So I would say that's kind of how I would view this game, and I'm sure, maybe ownership maybe not view it that way. But, yeah, ownership has told, I think that happened with Malarkey, as I understand it, is that we need to get you a new OC. He said, no, I'm sticking with Robisky. I think that was guy.
That's exactly right, Terry Robisky.
And then that hence led to his firing.
You're right.
As I understand it.
Yep.
So it does happen at times.
It is a Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Lee Company, all you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. Guys, we have the inactives, so we can probably answer some questions. No surprise here, running back Tajay Spears, kicker Nick Folk, wide receiver Jaquan Jackson, safety Imani Hooker, outside linebacker Arden Key, right tackle Jalen Duncan, and wide receiver Tyler Boyd. We pretty much told you about all of those at the start of the show that they would be out, but the name not on there, Mr. Tony Pollard. So it looks like Tony Pollard will play today, guys. He clearly has some incentives when it's all said and done in terms of if he plays, he can get something out of it. He can add up to $450,000 to his annual salary by rushing for 83 yards or more yards and 2 touchdowns today.
Isn't that more imperative, the fact that Tajay Spears is he out with a concussion?
Concussion still, still in protocol.
So, versus you making it so obvious by starting Julius Chestnut, you might as well say, hey, Tony, can you go today? Okay, well, guess what you're going to get?
Yeah.
And you get a chance to win your almost $500,000.
Yeah. I mean, he has been, speaking of Tony Pollard, I think Buck mentioned it earlier in the show. I mean, the 2 best moves the Titans have had in the past couple of years have definitely been Nick Folk and his reliability as a kicker here. Obviously, he's had some injuries towards the end of the season. And Tony Pollard. I mean, that was a brilliant move by Ran Carthon and company to bring him here. And the production, minus what you saw out of a whole as the offense consistently, he was consistent as a running back for them this season.
Yeah, most definitely. He showed that he's a starter in the National Football League. I know he sat some time behind Ezekiel Elliott and had to show his worth down there in Dallas, but the Memphis product came up here and, for what it's all worth, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do.
Put his head down and went to work.
Yeah, I think this is his third season that he's had 1,000 yards in the NFL. I think somewhere like that. But so he's been a very productive player, and he's a player that can do, he can run inside, outside, as well as catch the ball out of the backfield. So he's a really versatile back. So props to him, and hopefully he can get this little bonus incentive.
I remember wasn't that the question? Is he a down 1 through 3 guy? Because he seemed to be a little smaller in stature.
He played slot receiver at one point in time at Memphis.
But he showed that dude's tough.
He's tough.
Well, he had the high ankle surgery that ended one of his seasons. That's when he, kind of became the guy.
Sure.
Because he was the breakaway threat there with Ezekiel, and they kind of teamed up, splitting the carries. Yeah.
Love you Blues today, guys. I just wanted to get your thoughts real quick on when I saw him for the first time in person last year. I was taken aback in the way that those things, and I'm not joking, they are beautiful. Those are the best looking uniforms I have seen in my time covering the National Football League in terms of other throwbacks that I've seen as well. Man, they just look so good on the players. And I know Jeffrey Simmons mentioned this week taking a lot of pride in putting those on and what it means to the organizations. For you two that have done that, who can bridge the two between the Oilers and Titans, what does it mean, to see those?
So Amy, over the past couple of years, except for this year, has brought back the alumni, that were Oilers and Titans, and we have an Oiler Titans weekend, and Blaine and I are still rocking some of the, the backpacks and jerseys and stuff that commemorate, the Titans and the Oilers organization, because they are one, right? Sean Jones was a defensive lineman that was here when I was a rookie, and we were having a conversation just about what would have happened had Bud left the naming rights and the color scheme and the whole deal, left the Oilers in Houston and let the next owner continue, the Houston Oilers there. So there would be no Houston Texans, right?
Correct.
What that would have done would show the roots that the AFL, AFC, NFL has for a team that was actually brought in the 1960s. Okay. And I think what Amy is doing, because her dad was, one of the proponents for that. He was one of the reasons why that even the NFL as it is today even exists. It's acknowledging the fact that there is a history that existed before we got here. This team didn't just start when Blaine and I got here in 97. This team existed well before we were even born.
Sure.
As a matter of fact. So to commemorate that and to not let that whole part of history just go by the wayside, it's an acknowledgement. And I think Jeffrey Simmons had talked about that when he basically said it's been a bumpy season, and being able to close this year out in them uniforms, I think, it'll be a better way to go out. Of course, a win is a better way to go out, but to go out in this situation with those jerseys and having gotten the win obviously would mean something to some of the players in the building. Now, we and I were having this conversation about, what happens, with this team if it's actually winning, and will they get booed if they take the lead and win or whatever else. It'd have been a perfect scenario for the Titans to be playing the Texans in those uniforms with something to play for.
Yeah.
But now here's the consolation. The consolation is that there's history involved.
Right.
That, while some people would label us losers for wearing these the commemoration of how we started, we played for this team. Okay? It's the only team I ever played for.
Right.
And I would want them to go out in the best way they possibly can, representing the era of football that I started on a good note by wearing those jerseys and coming away with a W.
So you want them to get a W? What's your score prediction?
I know.
Yeah, I always want them to win, just because, like I said, I don't know anything else.
Sure.
Every check I got from the NFL had Houston Oilers tied to it. I never spent a practice. I never spent any time in anybody else's building. So, even though I think Buck went for the under 36 points, right? I think this is going to be a sloppy game. You're going to see a lot of mistakes being made because there's going to be a lot of young players out there. So I don't see a lot of high offensive output on either side. So if I said 17-13 Titans, that's what it's going to be.
I said 17-13 Houston.
Oh, yeah. The Texans, of course, right.
Well, I think that, the Texans, the last time that they were on the field was Christmas Day. And if they don't go out there today and do something that shakes the bad taste out of their mouth, the fact that they got shut out against Baltimore.
That's what I'm talking about, right.
So,
2 points.
2 points. And that's only because they tackled Derek in the end zone.
That's the thing. Right. They're going to the playoffs. They've got to figure out what the heck they're doing. And I feel like, I know their starters aren't going to probably play the whole game, but I think it's important that C.J. Stroud and company come out and try to find some sort of confidence in this team moving into the playoffs. Because, again, they still have stuff to play for.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting how much they do play, because they have not looked on the same page pretty much all season.
No.
And C.J. Stroud hasn't looked the same. And I don't know if that's because people understand the recipe of how to attack him, or is he just slipping a little bit, or is it more scheme-driven, player-driven?
And they've had injuries to their skill players.
So it's just really interesting. The league can, humble you really quick. In this league. So I think they have to play, and I think they're going to play to win, and they're going to play the starters as much as they can till they feel comfortable. So this is going to be an interesting test, because I think the players that are playing for the Titans are actually going to play to win.
Yeah.
And it's going to be conflicting for not only us sitting here at being former players, but also the fan base. That's why I brought up the joke, because, if they score to win, you also lose something there at the same time. The attention to be a first or second pick in the National Football League draft. This season is over, so why not find a way to make sure that we can make improvements immediately in 1 year? Because it can happen.
Sure. It's a big difference, right?
Yeah, right players drafted as well as in free agency. So it's always going to be a conflicting deal with fans and former players of what to do here. It was the first time I really ever felt that way, because I never even dreamed that this season would even be like this. But there were so many holes that continue to happen throughout this season. And I think the best bet is to try to fix it and instead of maybe hurt it at the same time by moving down a draft. So nobody can ever tank as a player, but what you
Correct.
do is you play the backups in this game and see what they can do. And if you win that way, so be it.
Yeah. And I mean, they're playing both quarterbacks, and we all know usually when you have two quarterbacks playing, that's more. Yeah, you don't have any at all. And so it kind of seems in a way like Blaine mentioned earlier, kind of like a preseason game. So you're not going out there and saying, hey, we're tanking in this last game, but the incentives are really high in terms of if you do lose. And that is really hard to pass up. With a franchise, since I've covered them, for the most part, have picked in the lower 20s or maybe the high 20s. Last year, 7th, but still that's not like, the top 5 picks. So this is a chance for them to be, honestly, one to 2 to 3, and probably 2 or 1.
When Blaine and I were rookies, we swept the division. We beat the Browns twice. We beat the Bengals twice. We beat the Steelers twice. And to do that, to sweep a team when you play them twice a year, that means something.
That does mean something, yeah.
That could be some incentive for the guys that are strapping up the helmet.
Sure.
Might not be for anybody else, but to say that in this defunct season, where you only won 3 games, to win 4 and having swept the team that won the division, that might be something that leads you into the offseason feeling a little bit better about yourself.
You're not wrong. It is the League Company countdown to kickoff. We're getting ready for the Titans and Texans today at Nissan Stadium. Titans trust their home stadium to League Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home to your next play. Visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. If you are driving to the stadium, please be careful that freezing rain is supposed to hit at some point. And if you're going to the game, heck, bring a layer for everything. Rain, sleet, snow, whatever it is, be prepared out there. Hopefully you can at least keep warm while watching the Titans today. What was your score for the game, Blaine?
I'm going to go out as a spoiler alert. 20-17 Titans.
Why does that seem like the real,
it seems feasible. It seems like that could actually happen.
That's the score I've kind of picked all year. I feel like is like 20-17. Like that seems like the right score.
Because they average like 18 points, don't they?
About 18.
Average 17, 18.
About 18 points this season. So, well, I wanted to say thank you guys for being on the pregame show this year. It's been a lot of fun hosting this with Blaine and Brad. And, of course, Buck Rising.
Sometimes.
Yeah, and Buck sometimes when he wants to show up. Thanks, Jeff, back there for producing this year. We want to thank all of you guys for tuning in each and every Sunday. I know it's been a difficult season. Through the ups and downs, though, you guys have been here in the F&M Bank chat, on the phone line, so we appreciate you. And hopefully we can have some exciting things to talk about here in the offseason.
Yeah, leading up into Mike Keith and the guys taking over and getting you ready for the game, I think we've done a good job of, for at least a couple of hours before that, of bringing good conversation and giving you some things to think about as this season comes to an end.
We've had some laughs, too. We got to have laughs on the show, right?
Got to have fun.
Exactly. Well, you guys, we're headed on out as we are giving way to Titans Radio as they lead us up to kickoff between the Titans and the Texans. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the Love You Blues. And as always, we like to say on this show,
Tighten up.